Vo and welcome to our online nail art tutorial. So today I am demonstrating this design right here, and everything that I use is available at www.tinovo.shop. So let's get ready for the lesson. Okay, so the first thing first is we're gonna put on the background. So this color is one of our blush nude. We are going to use pink blush nude today. So blush nude, when you see top gel, that means that this is a top coat. So the gel is no wipe, and when you cure this for 60-second cure, when you take it out, you don't have to put on top coat. So I am going to apply on these nails. And on a clear nail, you can use 2 coats, but most of the time on client natural nail or on acrylic, you only need 1 coat for these gels. Let's go ahead and cure this. And we're going to go ahead and paint this finger the same way. Go ahead and shake the gel up just a little bit. It's a new bottle. Okay, let's cure this. Now let's take it out. I am gonna give it 1 more coat. Okay, I'm gonna cure this. So the reason why I'm using top gel, why that curing, I'm gonna explain. So this flower that we're gonna do, I'm gonna start out with pigment. And when it comes to pigment, it do not like to stick on anything that are no wipe. So that's why we're using top gel, because top gel is no wipe. So after we're done, we are going to paint this flower right here. And we're gonna put pigment on. And when we put pigment on, it's only going to stick onto the design. It's not going to stick onto this background. And that is one of the reasons why I start out with top gels. Apply this on too. Okay. Now, let's go ahead and put it in the machine. And the next product that I am going to use is called Pigment Base. So Pigment Base is like a white gel polish, but its inhibition layer are sticky, so pigment can stick on, but it's also very dry, so pigment can blend on smooth. Unlike a typical nail polish, where when you apply pigment, it becomes muddy and cakey. So this is a product that I built to apply on pigment. So now we're gonna take this out and we're going to put this out on a palette. Just like this. And then we're gonna use art brush to draw the flowers. So that's pigment base. I'm gonna put it right here. Now, the brush that I am going to use, I'm going to use a 10mm liner first. So this is a brush that I built for lining. I'm gonna take our brush holders and I am going to take out a containers and put out my brush conditioning cleanser. So this is an oil-based cleanser that are gel friendly. that I made for you to clean your brush with, and the oil is safe with gels. I will put it into the container and rock from side to side. And after that, I will remove the excess oil with paper towels. And the paper towel that I use is Viva paper towels. I'm gonna put this down. And I'm gonna roll the brush from side to side to saturate the gel into my brush. So when you draw, you don't go out of gels. Your brush always have gel. It's gonna go in and out the brush smoothly. So I am now stroking it through to make sure that the amount of gel is nice and thin on the brush, so the brush is in shape. Now it's packed with gel and it's remain its shape. I am going to start drawing the flower. So you have to establish how many petals do you want on the flower, because on this flower it have 4 petals. So you have to plan this strategically, because if I were to point this into a 11 o'clock direction and this is a 7 o'clock direction, then now it's both even for me to have 2 more flowers left, pointing at 8 o'clock and pointing at 10 o'clock. So it's symmetrical. If I were to plan to draw 3 petals, then I have to plan it differently. The first petal obviously going to be right in the middle of the nails, like this. So now, the next petal, we only have 2 left, right? So one pointing up and one pointing down. So now we get to decide if this petal gonna be right in the middle or a little up on 2 sides. And since this is a complete flower, I suggest that you put this right in the middle, like that. So it's pointing right at 10 o'clock and this pointing right at 8 o'clock. I'm gonna draw another line. So these is a strategies that are very helpful for beginners, because now you already have a sense of direction. You can go ahead and draw in the petal. So I am going to figure this out first by doing this petal first. Okay, I'm gonna draw the outline. One here and one here. So now when it comes to coloring, I use either of these 2 brushes. These are my coloring brush and these are my emboss brush. Both can be used to fill in. They just have different lengths and they are different than a liner brush, because these brushes can absorb polish very easy and it can hold a lot of gel all at once. So for this lesson, since the petal is long, I prefer the emboss brush for this. So I take out the emboss brush, and again, every time that I take out a brush, I always clean this just to make sure that all the bristle are tore out. So, and it's very important, because if you have a brush bristle that are stick together, then gel couldn't pass through. It's clogging the brush. So your design process will be semi-difficult. So that is why I have to always kind of cleanse it right before I do design, because I want to make sure that all my brush is like this. See that? It's all can fan out individually. That is when I do that, but into the gel. I fan it out and I make sure all the gel will soak into the brush nicely. And then you can have this in color, or you can stroke it out to make the brush slimmer. That way it's easy for you to fill in a narrow area like this one. So let's go ahead and fill in this petal. I'm gonna color it in. And now you will instinctively want to do the same with this petal and this petal, right? Because these are equal, right? 1, 2, 3, right? Now, this is how I count it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, because of this. This, if it 90-degree angle, See, this is 90-degree angle too. So this right in the middle. So if I draw this petal, then I have to go over here and draw another half petal for it to be equal, right? So you can steer the petal a little bit over. So you don't have to draw another petal like this one. See, just a little bit on this side and a lot on this side. And that way, it's run out of room, so you don't have to go over here awkwardly and draw another half petal. So that way, it can only have 3 petals remain. This is an optical illusion that I want you to be aware whenever you design, so you don't end up awkwardly if the design look incomplete because there's no half petal over here. You know what I mean? So when you do it like this, and if you're aware of the composition of the nail, then you can steer it away and make it work for this design with only 3 petals. That is a little bit of information that could be useful to know. And after I'm done, I can examine my design to see if it's equal or not. And let's say if the 2 petals over here are too big, then you should go in and make this even before you cure. That's number 1. Now number 2 is aware if there are any mistake. Like for example over here, there's this line that are coming out here. If I want to cleanse it, the brush that I will use will be a oval brush. And I would not use a brush conditioning cleanser for this because this is oil based. And you to clean the brush is safe with gel, but what it is it doesn't evaporate away. So if the oil trace onto this surface, then what happens is when you put on pigment, the pigment will stick onto that oil surface. So you don't want that, right? So what we need is a solvent. A solvent is an alcohol or acetone base. When you use it to clean, it evaporates away. So that means pigment not going to stick on. So I am gonna take out an oval brush. I am gonna take out some acetone, and I want to make sure that I clean my brush free of gels first. If I have gel onto the brush, it's all clean. And put it on the side, and then I'm gonna clean my container. I want to make sure that there's no oil trace here. Because even though the oil is friendly with gels, it's not friendly with pigment. It's gonna stick to pigment. Well, it is friendly to pigment, but we don't want it to be there. So we're gonna take an oval brush and dip it in acetone, and we're gonna clean this part right here. You can see it's a tiny mistake that I have saved for you guys. I am gonna run this brush over to cleanse it. And usually I do it twice because I'm paranoid. Because if there are any extra gels that are left on the pink that our eye couldn't see, when you cure, it's gonna harden up, and when you put on pigment, it's gonna stick on there. So I'm going over that again just to make sure that it's all clean. So now our background is returned to a no white state. Okay. After that, I can cure when I'm happy with everything. So put into the machine, and pigment base is cured for 60 seconds. And while we're curing, I also gonna go through this nail with you, but it's the same technique as the flower. It's just in a French tip shape. So let's zoom out here. Now, when I start our French tip pigment base, you can use it as a liner gel too. For example, when I start our French tip, I like to do the frame first. I like to tell my client either turn the hand over, I draw on this side, and then turn the hand over and I draw on the right side again, like that. Or I can start out on the right side first, going up here, just like this. And I'm using a 10mm brush for this line. And then I can tell my client to turn the hand over, and I draw down. Why turn the hand over? Because I'm very comfortable drawing to the right. I'm not comfortable drawing to the left like this, because look how I have to turn my hand over and doing this awkward angle. It's very awkward for me, and even though if I can do it, I'm not gonna be comfortable. So you want something that you are comfortable with. So that's why I always tell hand to turn over, because the angle that I prefer, and I mark the middle first. That way, I don't, sometimes my eye is not level, and I don't recognize the middle point of the nail, and sometimes my French is lopsided, so I always kind of mark it first. And then now I turn the hand over and start drawing down. Start right here and go slowly so you can mirror the other side, or you can also re-stroke on the same spot slowly until it's equal. And then now when you turn back, all you have to do to your French is worry about this dip it right here, which are easy when they're only a little bit up now space to do. See that? And now you have complete your French line. If you doesn't have pigment base, then I will recommend you to get out a liner gel, like the white one stroke liner for this task, because unlike pigment base, most gel polish, when you paint, it's not a complete white. It have a milky texture into it. So that's why I use pigment base for this, because I can do line and I can fill in at the same time. Now, when you fill it in, remember, I don't use a liner brush to fill it in, because a liner brush takes too long. You see, it's for line. So what you do, and you practically drawing little line until you completely fill it, and that takes forever. So what I'm doing is I'm using the emboss brush, and look, when I see, if I put just a little bit of pressure, then it's a thin line, but if I put a lot of pressure, then it's a really thick line. And all the gel is all flattened out for you, because the brush is very strong, so it's flattened out the gel surface like this. Like when I press it, see how it's flattened it out. So this is a brush that I prefer to use when it comes to coloring. So I will color it all the way through to complete my French tips. Okay, now you want to wait for a little bit for the surface to be cell level, so it can be smooth for you, since we're not polishing this now. Polishing means to take a brush and go from top to bottom like that to ensure that it's smooth. But for us to draw French, that's not polishing, that color blocking, meaning we have to stroke in multiple different directions. Therefore, our stroke is not organized and the surface might be uneven. So how you check is you use your light lamp above you and you move the nail up and down like this, just to make sure if the surface are even or not. And when it's even, you can clear, and that depends on how thin or how thick you apply your gel. If you apply a little thick, then that will smooth out faster than if you apply it really thin, then it will take a long time for it to smooth out. So now when it smooths out, you can go ahead and cure. And remember that you cure for 60 seconds. See, this flower is already done curing. So now we're gonna remove the cleansers. We're gonna remove all the brush. And this is acetone, so I'm gonna go ahead and remove that first. And then I will take out my cleanser that I have, and I'll start cleansing my brush, because we are ready for pigment. So I'm putting all the gel product away, putting this away. And when I clean my brush, this is my step. I will take my brush and I will wipe it to get excess gel out first. Okay. So when I cleanse it, it doesn't contaminate my cleanser too much. So I put the brush in and I shake it from side to side to remove all the gel, and then I wipe my brush again to remove excess oil. And now a little bit of oil will stay in here to keep your brush nicely in shape, and oil doesn't evaporate away. And I love the part about this mousse is that the oil are safe with gel, so it doesn't make your gel chip or anything. It can blend into your gel. If your gel gets too thick, this oil can be used as a gel thinner. So now I clean all my brush. I'm gonna put it up. Put it into my brush organizers or thick brush. Onto the left, and I'll thin brush it onto the right. Now I'm gonna take out this nail that already done curing. So now we're ready for pigment. So let's talk about the color that we choose here. It starts out with black, as you can see a little bit here on the edge, and then I use fuchsia to blend it right into the white, and I leave just a little bit of white left. So the black that we're going to use will be this black right here, and this is a primary pressed pigment color. I'm gonna take this out. I'm giving it a light dust just to clean my palette. And for pigment, you need several items. First, you need a pigment brush. Right after you select your super pigment colors, and you need a paper towels for it. So a clean paper towel, you are going to take it out and take your brush and rub it along the paper towel like this. So this is how you clean and remove pigment off your brush without any liquid. Because if you use liquid, you don't want to use anything that will stay in your brush and tamper with your pigment. And if you want to use a liquid, the only liquid that I recommend is acetone, because it's evaporate away. Alcohol is acceptable too, except alcohol takes a long time for it to evaporate. But the most effective cleansing to me is always this. Just rub it on paper towel, keep it completely dry, and then I would rub on to my black pigment, and I will apply it right onto the surface of paper towel so it can trap my pigment. Because now what I want to do is I want to take out a container like this, or you can do it on the edge of the table, but what I want is to knock off excess dust like this. And what it does is that it eliminates loose dust. So when you apply onto a design, the dust, especially if it loose, it will shoot out all over the surface if you don't knock it out. So I am rubbing on my colors just to get into my brush, and I'm knock off excess dust. After that, I will go in and I will start put in colors 1, 2, 3, just to make sure that your stroke are nice and perfect, not too strong, not too light. Then you can start picking up your speed. So I am blending on about 1/3 of the nails. And if you have a heavy hand and you have trouble of blending, then at this point you can stop and run your brush through the paper towel a few times, and that will weaken the amount of pigment on your brush. So now when you go back, your blending will be easier. And then when you're ready to switch, you can clean your brush. But you see, when doing a nail design, I like to take care of one type of color first all over the entire set before I clean. So that will help me save time. So I come over here. And so now, remember that we have put on pink blush nude, and that is top gel, meaning top coat. So it's no wipe, right? And then we put pigment base as a design on top of it. So now what happened is, when I dust this through, this will only stick on to my pigment base, and it will not stick on to top gel pink blush nude at all. And this is one of the secret to pigment to help you isolate pigment. And this is something that airbrush cannot do. It cannot isolate pigments. So now we can design whatever, and when we color, it only will stick on to the design. Now I want you to see this part right here. Let me zoom in. And you can see that there is a little bit of pigment stick onto this area. And do you know why? Because remember that we cleanse this area and we have to go twice at merge, but obviously we leave some residue over here. So now we have to remove this residue, but that is one of the examples that I want to show you, that you have to really make sure that you remove all residue if you make a mistake. If not, it will stick on here. And if it does, then no worry, because we done it twice, so it's away from the design. So now we can just clean it really easy. So that is one of the example on pigment isolation that you have to pay attention when it comes to making mistake and such. You have to make sure if you clean, you have to really cleanse it. Now I'm going down here and continue putting pigment on. Then I go in with pink super pigment. But before I do, I also want to point out this part right here. Do you see this part where there is a little bit of black pigment stick on? So what happened is I start blending. This is really nice, and then I start blending here again. But you notice that when I move forward, I don't pick up pigment again. I just go over here and then I start go over here immediately. So I was impatient with it. I want to get it over quickly. And when I got impatient, my stroke is harder like this. So I kick pigment right up in the air and it lands right on here. So that is also another example for you to notice when you do your stroke. And it's slow motion. You start right on the air. You land right on the surface. You run and then you glide up like this. So this is a stroking motion, and you might not be able to see when I go fast like this, but my strokes are very light, because if your strokes are harsh, then this will happen. Pigment will become unpredictable. So that is something that I want you to be aware when you practice blending pigments. So now we're done with this black color. We are going to run our brush to the paper towel again and make sure that it's completely clean. And at this point, if you want to cleanse it with acetone, you can. If your color is too heavy, you can dip it in acetone and remove it. See, that's still color deep into the brush. It can be eliminated by acetone. And I choose acetone because a pigment brush, I'm not afraid of acetone drying it out, because it's a dry brush, it's not a wet brush. So after I have acetone in, I will make sure that this brush is really clean and dry before I dip it into pigment, because if you dip it into pigment and it's still wet, it's going to be a disaster. So make sure that you wait until your acetone is completely dry, and you can kill time by doing this, or you can start on another nail on your client and wait for it to dry. And when I do this, it's helped because the brush doesn't get stuck together. So when it dry, it's all tore out like this and loose. And now you can change to another colors. So you can take pink and find a next spot for your pigment and rub it onto your paper towels like this. And it will soak into your brush. And remember, you always have to knock up excess dust, because if you don't knock up excess dust, you see what will happen when you dust? It will kick all over the place and it will be very messy. So you knock up excess dust, and look, you still have a lot of color on this brush even if you knock it up. See that? The pink are still there, but now it's so clean for you to do. So I'm gonna go up here and I am gonna start right onto the black too and color it in. And when it comes to blending, remember if my brush have too much pigment, it will be difficult to blend. So I run my brush through the paper towel to weaken the amount of pigment in it. So now I go back and blend it in. And remember, you can always go back and remove it as much as possible until its blending become really easy for you. Go back here, remove a little bit of pigment, pick a little more pigment, knock off, and I'm gonna go back and make sure that my blend is more exaggerated. Okay, now I want to tell you about the tinting pigment when it get to this state. If it pink and white, and if you really want to exaggerate the middle a little more, you can use what I call a tinting pigment. First, let's go ahead and dust up excess dust, so you can see the black is revealed again. Because wherever there are already pigments, like let's say this part have a lot of black pigment, then the pink cannot really penetrate it as much as up here where there are 50% of black pigment, then the pink can infiltrate it and become like a dark pink. So now that is a trick for you to blend multiple color. You have to ensure that the first color is perfect or close to perfect before you move on to another colors. Now in situation where the pink and the white is too contrasted, then what you can use is a tinting pigment. It's a white bottle. You can buy it separately, or it's also included in the neon pigment set. You can take a little bit of tinting pigment and mix into the pink. And this white particle is translucent, so it will disappear in top coat. And it's not making the pink pastel pink. It actually go in there and tint the pink out, so you can apply pigment more easily, especially when it comes to separate your pigment. I'm gonna mix a little bit more pink in here. I don't want it to be too separated. Okay, and then I can go in. That is also going to help you with ombre for that powders. And then you can make more white if you want. So that is a several tips and tricks on blending. Now I'm gonna erase it. Just with a fluffy, I'm gonna dust up excess dust. Now we're not done. We're gonna go over here and keep on blending. So I am going to take out another paper towel and remove excess pink. And I'm gonna go in with a pure pink first, like this. Knock up excess dust. I just wanna use a tinting pigment just for you to know. If you have trouble with blending, you can definitely use that to save you. There, and I'm gonna keep going on all three petals. See how easy it is when you get a hang of it? Just like this. Okay, now when we're done, remember this spot. See that? It's gonna come back and haunt you. Gonna go ahead and take some acetone out. And I am gonna remove that spot again. And normally when I do this, I don't make mistake, but I do a little bit for you, just for you to see if you're gonna make mistake, what should you do in that situation and what you should expect to happen in that situation if you don't fix your mistake well. So we have these now. It is time to play with our 3D element. So first, let's go ahead and put little dot in here first, like this design right here. This design have a lot of white, but you see I use a thinning pigment just for you to see what you need to do on blending. Now I am going to go ahead and take our black one stroke liner first. This is one stroke liners, and one stroke liner is used for one stroke technique. If you don't know, you can Google one stroke technique to see what it is. And it's also very, very opaque. So I'm gonna take out some with the coloring brush. And it's great when I use it to do lines, and one stroke liner stick to pigment. So with the coloring brush, I am go in right here and press it down to make some big dot like this. And then I am going in with light pressure this time to create some tiny dot. Like that. Maybe a little bigger right here. And then I'm gonna go ahead and cure that. After that, I'm gonna put on some matte top coat and show you this design right here. It's like an embossed design, and I will show you just the gel that I use for this technique. And then we'll move on to the flower because it's a little bit different on the flowers. Okay, wait for it to cure, and then we are going to put on matted. So this is some matted top coat that we are going to use. And I am going to put on one coat of matted top coat. And you can see here, the pink change a little bit when you apply top coat on, because as I say, the thinning pigment is not a solid white where it makes the color pastel. It's translucent, so it can separate the colors and help your blending process to be more flawless. And after matted, you're going to go ahead and cure this for 60 seconds. And I use matted because it's an amazing velvet matte that is right here, super velvet. And what it means is that when I put into the light, 1, 2, 3, it doesn't take a lot of time for it to become velvet matte. Immediately dry, you can even touch it on the surface. And that is a matte that I build for pigment, because for pigment, if the matte is clear completely 100%, then it become no white. Then pigment will not stick into it too good. It will be very light. So for a matte to work, it needs to be able to cure partially, immaturely, and pigment can go on it nicely. And the difference between matte and pigment base is that it's clear. So you can apply on this surface which already have design on, and you can apply another color pigment right onto matted. So it's great for that purpose. And for that to happen, it have to be able to dry very fast. As this dry just 3 seconds. So you can apply pigment directly on here. To apply pigment, I recommend curing for 5 to 10 seconds, depend on your machine and lamp. And then you apply pigment and then you keep on curing. But this is a finished coat. We are not use it for pigment this time. We use it as a finish. So I'm gonna put it on here and cure for another 60 seconds. And I am gonna take out a gel that I call clear texture gel. I'm gonna take this out. Okay, now what clear texture gel is that it's a builder gel, but it is a no white builder gel, so you can put chrome powder right onto the surface when it dry. That's number one. But another thing that makes it special is that it's non-cell level. It's non-cell level because if you draw these lines that are too close to each other, you don't want these lines to blend. And that's why this gel are made, because it will not run, it will not blend. It is completely non-cell level, so it stays still for you, especially if you are messing with caviar bead. This can become very useful because when you apply, your caviar bead doesn't run. As you can see here, I already used all of the gel in here. I only have a little bit in here. That's how much I use these gels. So I apply it out on the palette, and then I go ahead and close the lid because I don't want my light or my lamp to cure this gel. It is very sensitive. It doesn't get cured with all the light, but some of the light. If it's strong enough, it can cure this because the non-cell level, the ingredient that we have to put in here, it can cause the gel to be very sensitive to light, and it can cure very fast. Just depend. So that's why I like to put it out on the palette. Now, I come in here and I will take out either a 10mm liner brush or an emboss brush. It's up to you. Since these are lined, it's thin enough that I don't need to use the emboss brush. I can just go ahead and use a liner brush, 10mm. Now, I am going in here and I twist it from side to side to soak the gel into the brush and stroke it out so the brush can be thin. And then remember that you only need to twist to lower your brush one time. It's the first time that you dip your brush into gel. If you have to come back, you don't need to roll your brush again. You just need to drag it out. Now, for emboss, I whip out a big bead just right at the tip of my brush. And the reason why it's only right at the tips, because when I place in my bead of gel down, that's pretty much all of it. So when I go in here, the line is nice and thin and very sharp. And that is the beauty of this line. So that is depend on how you pick your gel, and also depend on your brush pressure. See, when I go in, I apply a lot of pressure just to smack the gel right down. But when I go further in, I lift my brush up, so my pressure can be thin enough. My pressure can be light enough to make the line thin. And this is what I mean when I say lift my brush up. See, when you apply pressure, you press it down, right? So when you release pressure, you lift it up like this, and use just a tip to run through the design. So that is a technique that I use in the stroke like this. It will help you have perfect emboss stroke right to the surface. So when you know all of the tricks, you can design however you want. Your pattern can be however you like, as long as you remain good control over your lines. And another thing I want to point out is make sure that you draw slowly so you can keep the mental proportion of the nail right in the middle. And if you don't draw slowly, if you draw too fast, this will be what happened right here. Do you see this last line that I do? Do you see these lines are symmetrical? These lines are great. It lined up with the line above it. Okay, but this line is a little off. It's a little too far away. And why is it happen? It's because I draw too fast. So I want to warn you, don't go too fast, or else that will happen. And if it will happen, you take a paper towel and you clean that line up. Okay, And after you clean that line up, you can draw again, because remember that this gel is non-cell level, so it's not going to run anywhere. All of these gel are wet and it's going to stay here. You can wipe them all away if you want to. And if them too close together, then you can use a brush to clean up that line, and then you do it again. And remember, this time go slower. And if you are awkward with this angle, because remember, I'm very bad at drawing to the left side. I'm good at drawing to the right side. Even up and down, I'm good at drawing down, but I'm not good at drawing up. So you can do this. You can tell your client to turn their hand over like that. And you can now draw to the right. Remember, lift your pressure. And there you go. See, nice and even. And you can clear this. So that is also another trick of when you designing for a client. You can maneuver your hand and her hand, so it's easier for you. You don't have to switch angle. She should have to switch angle for you, so it's make you more comfortable. Now, when it comes to this, what I do is I draw the line first, but I don't draw the dot. What I do is I take a 3D gel that I'm going to talk about later. I'm going to apply onto the petal to make it look 3D like this. And then I draw the dot on the 3D element that I applied. So first, let's go ahead and line the petal out. I am going to use the same one stroke liners. I dip into the one stroke liners. And I roll my brush from side to side and I stroke it out to make it slimmer. And now let's draw the outline of the petal. So let's start with just light pressure on the tip of your brush. Touch. Make sure you're stable. If you're shaky, you need to stop and you need to calm your nerve down, or you need to take our palette and you need to touch the tip of your brush on the palette to meditate on it. And if you can remain 1 whole minute with a light touch on the tip of your brush and you lift and the dots are very tiny, you're good to go. You can go back and draw again. Now, if when you meditate and you accidentally apply pressure and make the dot really big, that means that your mind are not stable and you have to continue to calm your nerve or try to focus before you walk into this design. Because these are raw pigment, and if you make a mistake, you cannot clean it up. You cannot clean it up because you will wipe off the pigment. So remember that if you're willing to make mistake and you don't want to ruin your pigment, then beside meditation and make sure it's perfect, you also can apply 1 coat of top coat over everything to make sure that it's clear and sealed. So now you can make mistake and you can apply acetone and wipe over the design without ruining it. But that will cost you 1 extra layer, so be very careful. And then the most important thing, or the better thing to do, will probably be making sure that you are focused on your brush stroke. Make sure you angle your finger right, and you touching your brush lightly on the tip of your brush. And when you are ready, you go and you don't hesitate all the way. And you shall repeat this multiple times. The more you do this, the better you become at line work. And at first, I recommend you to go slow. Okay? So slower, the better. But slow and I'm searching for that word. The opposite of hesitation, because I don't want you to hesitate. I want you to be decisive. And so when you go with confidence, with non-hesitation like this. Okay, even with a slow speed, you see, you don't stop, you keep going. Even if your speed is slow, you keep going. Now hesitation will be start going and then you stop and you be like, you start to think, you start to doubt yourself, and this is when you start to, your line will start swerving right in the middle. So I don't want this. I want 1 solid line all the way through, and the trick for a solid line all the way through, besides stability and pressure, is also you have to remove any hesitation. You have to go all the way through confidently. Because remember, if you hesitate while you're drawing your line, you will start swerving because your mind is now not on the line. It could be to the left, could be to the right, but it's not focused on drawing the line like this. So it does take a little bit of mind work for line work like this, but all it takes is to understand and to start practicing. That's it. Go all the way through. Now, another thing that I want to talk about is your breath. So when you breathe, your shoulder move, your chest move if you're a shallow breather. So when you do line work, I don't recommend talking. However, like me, I do line work for many years. My muscle memory are built. So I can do it while I talk at the same time because I have become a belly breather. A belly breather is when I breathe on my stomach, so my shoulder and chest doesn't move. So when you hear, when people say, let's clear this for 60 seconds so we can continue our conversation. When people telling you to hold on to your breath, remember that this is misinformation because when you hold on to your breath, you will run out of oxygen, and at that point, if you are a shaky person, you become even more shakier. So what they meant is for you to keep a shallow breath. And if you cannot keep a shallow breath, then learn how to breathe with your stomach so your chest and shoulder can be more stable when you're doing things like this. Or just try not to talk to your client, trying to focus. And when you're doing this for many years, you become better and better. And as soon as you know it, you can talk and chit chat and do line work right at the same time. Your speed will be much faster. You then can control your speed. You can slow down or speed up, just depend on you. So after I'm done with this line work, I am going to go ahead and put matte top coat on. Sorry, wrong bottle. Search for this right here. Okay, put matte top coat on. The reason is the pigment beside the gel is not been top coat yet. The background is already top coat, so it's fine. But the pigment is raw, so I don't want to put on something that a 3D, like a 3D gel that I mold on raw pigment because it might distort the ombre. So what I do is that I protect it with matte, and if you want shine, you can do shine too, but I protect it with top coat first. So for pigment, when you apply a top coat over it, I want you to glide very lightly over the surface. And if you can go slow, you should, because you don't want to be scared and apply like this, like fast but like this, very jumpy. And when you jump, there is missing spot of gel everywhere. See this missing spot? So you have to go back and reapply to make sure that it's smooth. And that is when your pigment can bleed, because it soaks into the gel, it become wet, and now you stroke it over and over and over again. So minimize your stroking by going slow and light pressure so you don't scratch your design with your brush. You can glide right through it. After that, let's go ahead and cure. And we are ready to make these 3Ds. So I'm using a different 3D element. Here I am gonna take out a molding gel that I have. It is called 𝐏𝐢𝐠𝐬. And this is clear 𝐏𝐢𝐠𝐬. So it's completely clear. It's different with my silicone gel because it dries solid. I am going to take out a spatula and scoop out a bead of gels. Okay. And then I can roll that bead out and split it into 3 equal parts. One, and this gel are non-sticky, so you don't have to worry about it being sticky on your table and such. Just like that. Now, if you have acetone on your table, it will stick. Just because acetone can melt your gel, so it can serve you good or not, it's up to you. It can stick on the surface if you use acetone, so it's good. But if you have acetone on your hand or table, and it can stick on your hand or table, which is not good. So it depends. Now, you can do this if you want, since the gel is non-stick. Sometimes when you stick it onto the surface, if you're not gentle enough, if you're too harsh, then it tries to stick onto your fingers, and then it will leave the surface. So if you want, if you're not gentle, you can use another gel called sticky, and this gel can be used to stick your clay dough onto the surface. So I am taking out a little bit of sticky and apply on the petal, and you don't have to completely cover the flower. You can just have a little spot like this, and it will be enough for it to stick on, and then you can press out the rest. So I am gonna go ahead and cure sticky for 60 seconds, and then I will apply clay dough onto the surface. I'm gonna take this out, wait for it, and take out my tool. So the tool that I'm using, I have a couple of tools for it. I have a silicone tool like this. It's non-stick to clay dough, which is fantastic. And I also have the engraving tool, and I love this tool when I deal with 3D because it don't have a bar at the end like a dotting tool, but it's not a pointed needle neither. It's a blunt tool, and it's amazing for tiny details. So I'm applying the bead, one right here, one right here, and I save in the smaller one right here. And when I first applying clay dough, I always want to gently tap it so it can adhere the gel onto the surface, especially if you don't have sticky gels. That's number one. Number two, gently, because if you press too harsh, the bead can stick to your hand and not stick onto the surface because it's a non-stick gel, so it's stickiness of 50-50 either on the surface or onto your hand, just either way. So that's why I gently tap it onto the surface, and after that I can go into the middle with my engraver and pour it out. See how easy? I love this tool when it comes to things like this. Even better than my silicone tool when it comes to things like this. Then I place the point of my engraver right in here, and I lift the body up like this, not laying flat. See, not laying flat like this, but I laying the point onto the surface and then lift up my press tool. So now I am slanted, and I press it out like this. Just press it in slowly, and then I can slowly try to pour this right onto the edge. Okay, and then I can slowly pressing it out on both sides. Now, this is for people who are, I would say, micromanaging. For artists that like to micromanage, this is the pattern that they would do, and these also appropriate for 3D design. But for artists that are not micromanaging, for artists that are abstract, they don't go in order like that. What they do is that they press one, press twice, press three, and then the pedal, and then they can work inside like this. So this is also another style of molding. Unlike this, if you see, because when you press, your pedal might not be even, but for a design like this, it doesn't matter if it's even, it's still beautiful. But for people who like micromanaging, they would like to start right in the middle. They would like to slowly go out to the edge, and then they would like to like carefully tap onto the side like this. So it doesn't matter how you mold, either way will be effective for this design. Now, what I do is I like to go back. I like to press abstractly and then go back onto the surface and lightly press it to slowly get it to the edge. So my way is somewhat in between. And I will slowly mold or lightly mold on all 3 petals. Then what I like to do when I'm finished my clay dough is like I like to smoothen it out, because this process are just molding. Molding is tapping, pressing, but to smooth it out, I want to use a brush for it. So this is when I'm using my 3D brush. And what do I use to smooth it out? So back in the day, we use alcohol to smooth it out. But you see, alcohol sometimes can dry your brush if you work on it too long. So what I like to use is brush conditioning cleanser. Again, I use this because this gel, this solution is used to condition your brush while you're working on it. Also, that the oil in here, because it's made out of oil, it don't evaporate away. So with a little bit of it, it can smooth out your design perfectly. Also, because it is safe with gel product, I have no problem applying it on clay dough, because you cannot use oil on gel, remember? If you use oil on gel, then your gel will have issue. If you put another top coat on it and such, it will cut chipping and such. But remember that this oil formula are safe with gel, so now it's fantastic to apply onto the surface just to smoothen it out. Just like that. And then after you smoothing it out, you can go ahead and put it into the light and clear it. Okay, so let's cure that, and I cure that for 60 seconds. So after we cure that, we can put on the dot. So the reason why I do that, because if I put the dot first and then I put a clear gel on top, it might fade the dot a little bit, because the gels have a lot of volume. It's very thick. So it's like putting a piece of glass right on top of it. You still can see it, but it will distort the detail. So that's why I choose to dot right on the surface, so it looks more realistic. And I'm gonna go ahead and cure that. Almost done. So after it's cured, if you take your hand, your finger, and touch it, you can notice that it's a little sticky right here, okay? And the reason is when you're using the brush conditioning cleanser, remember that brush conditioning cleanser can blend into gels. So what it does is blend into the gel to make it smooth, but it's left inhibition layer behind. So don't be afraid that this gel haven't cured yet. What happened is there is inhibition layer on it that when you take acetone or alcohol and you cleanse it like this, it cleans away the inhibition layer. As you can see here. But you don't need to cleanse it away. You can just apply top coat or gel paint right on it. I'm doing this just so you can be aware, so you don't freak out if you accidentally touch it and feel that it's sticky. Now, what I do is that I take out the black one stroke liner again, and I'm gonna apply right onto the petals. So I am gonna go ahead and with my brush, and I'm using a coloring brush. So I can press, because the coloring brush is still thicker than the liner brush. so you can get like a perfect splotch right there. Liner brush, you cannot get a splotch when you press, at least not a big splotch. So you have to like move your brush around to make a little splotch. Where a coloring brush, you just need to touch it like this. See, and press it, and there's a splotch right there for you already. So for detail like this, it can help you if you choosing the right brush. You can have fun doing the design instead of stressing out and trying to focus on such easy detail like this. Just press it out, and lighter pressure means smaller dot. And a coloring brush also amazing when I use it to trace around the frame of 3D design like this one. A liner brush will be more tricky to trace around a 3D area like this. See, and it can make the design just a little bit better with this move. Just going around and color it in. And when you're ready, you can go ahead and here. I'm gonna put some more dot right here. Now, I'm gonna go ahead and cure this. Then all you need is top coat that petal, and you're done with that design. Now, I also want to talk to you about this line on the design. What this line is yeah, you can see it's black but it's sparkle. And this is pixie gels. And what pixie gel is a reflective gel that you can design on top of any surface because it doesn't need any top coat. It's no wipe. So you can apply on matte or on shine, and after you cure, you're done. Well, back in the day, if I want to use a gel like this to apply on matte background, I have to trace top coat on the line to keep the background matte. And if not, then I have to put top coat on everything. So I made this gel for that purpose, because now you can draw on matte and you don't have to trace a design with top coat. So I would take out pixie gel, and the color that I use is called Black Diamond Pixie Gel. Taking this out, and I will use a liner brush, and the color of pixie gel are very opaque. As you can see here, it's a full cover glitter, not like the glitter that we used back in the old day where it's spread out because there are not enough glitters, but thick glitters, but the formula are very thin, so you can glide over the surface very easy for line work. So that's what I'm gonna do around this frame is I'm gonna put on Black Diamond Pixie Gels. See how easy it is when it glides over the surface like this. Same here. And then now you cure and you're done. No top coat needed. So that is very convenient. Now, let's go ahead and top coat this. I am going to take out my shined top coat. Shined top coat is no wipe. So when you apply, you don't have to wipe it, and it is a scratch-proof top coat. So when your client come back after a few weeks to 4 weeks, like 3 weeks to 4 weeks, the design will remain shiny and it will not turn dull based on its scratch-proof ability. And the brush I'm using here is coloring brush. Coloring brush because when I use a liner brush, it's very difficult for me to soak top coat into it because it's very thin for line work. But for this I'm not drawing line. I want to color top coat onto the surface. So the coloring brush will help me absorb top coat into it much better. So now when I go on, it's nice and smooth. It's quick and easy for me. I can apply it on all 3 petals. All right, and then cure for 60 seconds and you are done. This show is done. So after I'm done, I am gonna go ahead and clean my palette. So I taken out a paper towel and I dry clean the gel on it first. Wipe away any excess gel before I soak it in acetone. Okay, now the excess gel is gone. I am going to take out another paper towel and I am going to put acetone in it and clean the surface. See, if you doesn't clean the gel first, then what happens is when you apply acetone in as a liquid, it's gonna melt your gel and your gel gonna spill everywhere. It's gonna be awful for your work area. With this, it can keep your work area super clean. Then take this out and this is done. And that is how you achieve this design right here. You can custom the colors, you can custom the pattern as long as you use the same strategy and technique for this lesson. And I hope you enjoyed this lesson today. And until next time, remember to subscribe us on YouTube